Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our week 5 instructor session. This is a really fun instructor session for me because we get to discuss things such as conflict, and also we get to talk about your topic selection and your support for your upcoming speech assignments in this course. So you'll have assignments which lead up to ultimately a speech delivery at the end of the course. But for now, we're going to start off just selecting a topic that you enjoy and finding some research to go along with that topic. But before we do any of that, I wanted to discuss one of the concepts that we're focusing on this week, and that is just how we communicate with each other and also the fact that conflict comes along with that. Excuse me. All right. So, we've all experienced it. You might be saying, what in the world is Dr. Davis talking about? Conflict. Conflict is inevitable. At some point in our lives, we have and we will experience conflict. Sometimes this conflict takes place in our personal lives with our friends, our family members, our spouse, our significant others, even our children, and more situations than that. Conflict can also be a part of our professional lives. For example, we might experience conflict with a hard to work with colleague or supervisor, boss, whatever you want to say, a customer, or more. And even more often than we'd like to admit, we are the ones that initiate the conflict. But nonetheless, there is hope. For instance, did you know that you can have healthy conflict in relationships? Many people go through life thinking that all conflict is bad, when in fact it's not. In fact, conflict can be a great thing. All relationships experience growing pains and even just differences of opinions. Excuse me. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't want to have a relationship with a clone of yourself, so that's where differences of opinions can often come in. Knowing how to handle conflict, though, can make all the difference. But first, what is conflict? Well, according to researchers, conflict can be defined as an expressed struggle between at least two parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from others in achieving goals. Conflict, then, is expressed through your verbal and also your nonverbal communications. So when you believe that your goals or those of another person are contradictory, you're both competing for something similar, or even there's just scarce resources, or maybe you just perceive interference from another person in trying to get what you want. In those situations, conflict can often occur. So, in a nutshell, conflict is inevitable and it's just simply a part of life. But learning how to properly handle conflict and even how to resolve conflict, especially in a healthy manner, can make your relationship better. Now, if you don't learn how to handle conflict properly, it can also break your relationship in the end. So, how can you do this? How do you work to handle conflict in a healthy manner? Well, one way you might try utilizing the 6 steps for resolution. Now, let me explain that. Using this plan, you'll want to first cool off. There's really nothing like heated emotions in a conflict situation to escalate the conflict to a more dangerous level. Next, you want to be clear with your communication and state what is bothering you. Now, when you do that, you need to remember your to use owned messages and avoid blaming. So, you might take that situation instead of saying, well, you did this and you did that, and that's why I'm mad. That's blaming. You want to avoid that because it's just going to escalate the conflict situation. But instead, you could say, well, I felt like, you know, and then say whatever it is you felt. Instead of blaming the other person, just saying how you feel and not attacking that person. Next, take responsibility in the part you played in the situation or the conflict scenario. That's a hard one for most of us, but we all usually play some part in the situation. So own up to it. After all, we're just all adults. Own up to your mistakes and your contributions to the situation. From here, work together to brainstorm solutions which will benefit everyone involved. And then lastly, make sure to affirm that person, forgive if you need to, or even just thank the individual who was part of the conflict situation because it helped you to grow, probably. This helps us to let go of resentments and to move forward in our relationships in a healthy manner. But let's dive a bit deeper into this. Have you ever thought about how you actually handle conflict? I don't mean something along the lines of, I like to listen and respond to it. That's great. But what I mean is your specific management style you use in conflict scenarios. Probably not. You've probably never really thought about that. Most people don't. So let's take a look at some of these different styles. As discussed in our readings, the accommodating conflict style yields to the concern and the desires of others. So, someone who uses this accommodating style often does so to keep the peace, so to speak. We often do this by giving others what they want, even though this means sacrificing our own thoughts, ideas, our power, our productivity with the group, and much more. But remember that every conflict style has a time and a place. Accommodating can be great when it aids in productivity or when anything other might threaten the harmonious relationship within the group. So, accommodating is not all negative. Just remember that when using this style, you can yield on certain issues within the group. However, you might want to hold firm to certain issues that are important to you, as this can help everyone involved achieve better outcomes while also helping you not to lose yourself in the process. And when we choose the compromise conflict management style, we're generally choosing to give something up to get something in return. Now, many academics actually refer to this as a lose lose style. And you might say, well, I thought compromise was a great thing. Well, it can be, but we think of this as a lose lose style of conflict management because neither party involved ever fully is satisfied with the outcome or the solution. When we choose to compromise, we're choosing to find a middle ground. There are many times in your life in which compromise is necessary, though. So it's not all bad. For example, if you go in to see your boss to negotiate a raise, you might ask for a pay increase, which is just not in the budget at that time, and it's not something they are able to do. However, there is some room for negotiation. So, with that, you find a middle ground. And in such situations, the for me, the quote, half loaf is better than starvation pretty much hits the nail on the head. So ultimately, though, we want to strive for a win-win situation when possible. So compromise has a time and a place again, but it's still not a win-win situation. Now, the next conflict management style we're going to discuss is avoiding. Avoiding generally means that a person withdraws from a potentially unpleasant situation to avoid the conflict that might come from it. A lot of my students say, well, I like the way I handle conflict. I just don't deal with it at all. I just avoid it at all costs. That's not healthy, guys. It's not healthy to always avoid conflict. So while that flight or fight approach might seem like a constructive approach, it can often cause a lot of damage in the long run. So while it can be okay to let somebody have some time to cool off, just in case things got a bit escalated, it's also best to revisit the issue later on. Conflict never just disappears, as many who use the avoidance strategies hope for. Most people who avoid hope the conflict just goes away, but it doesn't ever just go away. If you don't eventually address the conflict, feelings of negativity, resentment, and even anger towards that person will come out again, potentially in another argument that had nothing to do with what you're mad about. So, you want to work to resolve it, don't avoid it. And lastly, let's discuss the collaborative or the integrative style of conflict management. Collaborating has been referred to as the most complex and potentially productive communication style of conflict management. The collaborating style is a win win cooperative approach to conflict, which attempts to satisfy all the parties involved. So, this is actually the best way to handle conflict if you can. The collaborative style has three key components. It directly addresses or confronts the problem without any negativity, seeks joint gains by creating creative solutions which are satisfactory to all the parties involved. It calms or soothes the troubled waters by calming those agitated feelings by everybody that's involved in it too. So, when tempers and emotions are high, no collaboration is possible. So you have to smooth out those emotions first. Remember that attacking each other in the conflict won't help you to find a solution or even calm the conflict. So you're not going to get there, excuse me, by by attacking other people. So are there any downsides to this type of conflict management style? As with each conflict management style, absolutely, there's downsides. Collaborating requires a great investment of time and effort, and it usually asks that all the parties involved have better than average communication skills. So it's not for everybody. Next, collaboration is built on trust. If the parties involved are worried that one person might betray the other or not honor the agreement, collaborative solutions are often rejected. So if you're in a situation and you feel like you've come to an agreement together to talk it out, to not what I call mudsling at each other, don't throw harsh words at each other, harsh insults and things like that. You've decided to really just to sit down and discuss it, but you feel like that other person at any point in time could start mudslinging at you, saying ugly things and stuff, then you're not going to have enough trust in that situation to really get to that collaborating style that you want. So trust has to be there. And lastly, the parties involved in the conflict situation don't always possess the same emotional investment in finding a good solution. So while one person really, really, really wants to work on it, the other person might not care that much and might blow them off. And in that situation, collaboration can't be used. It's just not going to be effective. But when it can, collaboration can be a wonderful choice for creating a win win situation. I urge you to try it out when you're able to do so. All right, so let's talk about your topic selection. All right, so in this course, you are going to have several assignments starting in week 6, going all the way to the end of the course, which lead up to ultimately you delivering a persuasive speech. So I want to go ahead and talk about this now, though, because we don't have an instructor session scheduled for week 6. So I am talking about a week ahead in assignments as far as the topic selection goes. But I just want to make sure that you understand what's being asked of you before it's asked of you. So next week, you're going to have your topic selection and research assignment due, and it's actually called, hold that thought. It is the week 6 assignment, speech project part 1. Okay, and I'll show you that on a better screen in just a moment. So, in part 1 of the speech project, you're going to first consider something which you feel strongly about. Now, the assignment directions next week says this can be a political issue, a pet peeve, a social justice issue, or something you just want to persuade other people to believe. Now, this is ultimately going to lead up to a persuasive speech. So, I ask that you remove that pet peeve thing. Pet peeves never work for this topic. I'm not sure why they list that in the directions. I do apologize. But if you're trying to deliver a speech on why people should chew more quietly, you're not going to have enough information or research or interest to actually make a persuasive speech out of that. So instead, think of a persuasive speech like this. Persuasive speeches are used to advocate for or against something. All right. So I want you to choose something that you want to persuade people for or against. Now, here's a few examples I've had from previous students. Why you shouldn't text and drive, why you shouldn't drink and drive, why you should vote, why you should volunteer with the Boys and Girls Club, why you should become an organ donor, why you should donate blood. So you see what I'm doing there. All of those things are things you're advocating for or against. All right. So start there. What is one topic that you want to really persuade people on and advocate for or against? So from here, once you choose your topic, you need to find two pieces of reliable research from two different places, and you're going to work on including that into your speech. So, in week 6, your assignment for the first part of the speech project is going to be, and I'll show you in just a moment. I'll jump ahead a week and show you what I mean. But basically, you need to choose a topic. You need to locate two pieces of research you want to include in your speech that tie into that topic, and you need to include your references in APA style. Okay? So, let me show you just real quick what that assignment looks like so you have a good idea. All right, so again, we are in week 5 of the course, but I'm going to show you this assignment in week 6 just because we don't have an instructor session next week. And I want you to start thinking about it now so you're ready for that assignment next week. So we logged into the course. You're going to click on modules. Obviously, let's see here. Obviously, for this week, we're doing our normal stuff here. We've got our week 5 overview, our week 5 readings, where to locate the readings, the week 5 interactive lecture, your week 5 discussion. Don't forget your initial post is always due on Wednesday after the week opens, and you have until um, Sunday to reply to 2 other classmates in a thought-provoking manner, okay? And then you have your week 5 instructor session. Now, we're just going to go ahead and jump on down to week 6 real quick, though, so I can show you this assignment. So the assignment I'm referring to is week 6 assignment, speech project part 1. So when we click on that, you'll see that this is due next week, and it's going to give you the details for the assignment. Now, when you click on the link here to open it, because you'll just type your information on here. Now, again, you're given the directions. So, this is what I'm talking about. You're going to write out your topic in 5 words or less. So, if your topic is why you should vote, okay, you can put that here, or you can be more creative with your topic if you want to, whatever. Then you're going to list 2 resources. Excuse me, you're going to list 2 resources you want to use in your speech in terms of that topic choice. So let's actually change that up. Let's make that topic why you should learn proper CPR. So, why you should learn proper CPR. You are 2 pieces of research or resources you might find might be some information on the American Heart Association's website and also maybe a medical journal, let's say Medical Today. Okay? So, you would first list a properly formatted APA style reference for the American Heart Association's website. And then again, you would list a properly formatted APA style reference for that medical journal, Medical Today, or whatever, and list right here. So those are going to be 2 pieces of research that you want to include in your speech, which will take place a lot later in the course. Next, you're going to write a summary of 200 words or less and summarize the information you found on the American Heart Association's website and that medical journal. Summarize what you found and what you want to include in your speech. Okay? So that's what you're looking to do. So you've got write out your topic, include your properly formatted references, and then include a summary of what you found. Now, I don't want you to put here my own experiences or an interview I had with my aunt. So instead, for this, I want actual hard research. So it's okay to include your personal experiences into your persuasive speech. There's nothing wrong with that. But you still need research included in there to add credibility. So you need at least 2 resources or pieces of research that you're going to include in your speech that you can, find online or put your hands on, like a medical journal, something like that, whatever. Obviously that will depend on your speech. A reputable website is perfectly fine. It's okay. Just make sure that you're gathering responsible research. Okay. And then you'll do your summary of what you found. And that'll be information that later you'll actually include in the speech. So we're going to X out of that. So again, that assignment is due in week 6. I know it's week 5 right now, but I did want to go ahead and get you thinking about it so you can be ready next week. And we don't have an instructor session next week, so I couldn't cover it with you next week. So anyway, make sure that you do find a topic that you really want to advocate for, not a pet peeve, something, like I said, the suggestions. If you need help coming up with a topic, just ask me. We can brainstorm together. And with that, start collecting that research to integrate into your speech, and also so you'll have it for next week's assignment. Your references on that assignment next week should be an APA style. So if you're not sure how to do that, just Google it. It'll show you. It's no big deal. Now, when we get to the actual speech, when you're delivering that speech, I believe it's in week 12, then you will find ways to add what we call verbal citations. So a lot of times people put the research in there, but they don't credit the research in the speech, and you don't have as much credibility that way. So if I was doing a speech on why you should learn proper CPR, and I'm making this statistic up right now, guys, so just stay with me. Then if I said 52% of Americans don't know how to properly perform CPR, or in my speech, I said that. Or if I said, according to the American Heart Association, 52% of Americans do not know how to properly perform CPR. See how just adding that according to wherever the research came from, that adds so much more credibility and also allows your audience to go back and really do a little digging on that research if they're interested and want to learn more. So we always want to include verbal citations when we're doing persuasive speeches. All right. And you might be saying, isn't research just for more serious topics? Actually, no. Responsible research should be a part of all that we do to communicate. Being knowledgeable on your topic as well as up to date and informed with your research really only just strengthens your credibility as a speaker. So, again, how would you include this in your speech? Responsible research. Okay. So just like I said, find credible websites that provide research you might want to include. You can look at books or textbooks or newspapers, credible magazines and journals, things like that. And then again, you want to add those verbal citations into your speech. A simple according to Psychology Today, and then say your quote, whatever it is. Just be sure when you're doing your verbal citation, you don't say, according to www.psychologytoday.com / you don't want to say all that. You would just say, according to Psychology Today. All right. So APA style is how we want to format our references. Creating APA style format, it can be tricky just because things are formatted differently. And so I wanted to give you a few tips on that in this meeting. But again, if you do still have questions on it, you can do a simple Google search that'll show you, or you can just ask me. That's fine too. So I think that most of you would primarily be either using your textbooks as research or internet articles. And so that's what I'm going to cover with you in terms of how to format a reference. But if you have any questions about any other way to format something, just let me know and I'll help you with that as well. So let's say that you have a textbook and you want to use a piece of research from that in your speech. Well, here's how you would format your reference in APA style. So the above portion here is a template I give you so you can just plug in the information. And the below one is an actual reference using that template so you can see what it would look like. So you've got the author, the year of publication, the title of the work. So you've got the author's name of the textbook, the year it was published, the name of the textbook, and if it's got a subtitle as well, the location that it was published, and the name of the publisher. And if you look down here, we've got the author's name, we've got the last name, comma, first initial. The year of publication was 2010. The name of the textbook is Interpersonal Communication, and it also has a subtitle, Everyday Encounters. This one's actually a 6th edition, so we would put that there. The location of publication is Boston, Massachusetts. So notice how we use the state abbreviation, but we spelled out obviously the city. And then we have the name of the publisher. Now, if you're not sure where to find this information in the textbook, just look in the first few pages and you'll find it there. But let's say that you want to use a website that has the name of the author listed, and you want to use that for your research. So you would, again, here's the template, here's a sample reference. Okay. So this actually, we're saying that maybe there's two authors on the website. So, just so you can see how that would differ. So you have the author's last name, first initial, and the second author's last name and first initial. Then you have the date of publication, the title of the document, so the title of the article, and then retrieved from, and you list the web address. Okay. So here's a sample, and I actually put a lot of authors on this one so you could see what it would look like. Let's say that all these authors are listed on the article on the website that you found that you want to use. So we would list the last name, last name, first initial for all the authors that are listed. We would list the publication date. If there is more than just the year and it gives you the actual date, you'd want to list that too. So here we have 2010, May 5th. Okay. Notice the punctuation and stuff too, where the parentheses are, where the periods are. That's all really important to how you format your reference. Then the next would be the title of the document. So the title of the website article was Breast Cancer in Today's Society. And then we would say retrieved from, and we'd list the web address as I did here. Okay. Now, let's say, because this happens more times than not, that the website that you found has some really great information, but it doesn't have an author or a date listed. No problem. You still can format it. So we've got the template up here, and we've got the sample reference down here. So you would put, instead of the author's last name and first initial like we did on the other stuff, we'd put a shortened version of the article's title. We'd put ND, where the publication date would normally go. That just means no date. Notice the periods too. We'd put the full article's title, retrieved from, that colon, and you put the web address. Okay. So let's say our website is this down here. Okay. So I put a shortened version of the article's title, communication. I said N period, D period, because there was no date listed for publication. I put the article's full title. So the article from the website was Interpersonal Communication Skills You Need. And I put retrieved from, and I put the web address. Okay. All right. Now, one more thing. Let's say that there is no author, but there is a date. Well, then you would put, instead of N period, D period, you'd just put the date in there. All right. So, 2019. All right. So hopefully that helps you to see how APA style goes with your references, because you will need that next week on that assignment. But if you have questions, just let me know. Now, let's take a look at your assignments for week 5, our current week. So we are up to speed with that as well. Okay, so we're back in our course. All we're going to do is click on modules, and we are going to scroll down to week 5, which is the current week. And we have everything that we normally do. So we're going to start, as always, by clicking on the week 5 overview. And we've got a summary of what we're doing for the week, and also the objectives for the week, what we hope to accomplish by the end of the week. We have our week 5 reading, so this tells us to read chapter 5. We can click this to load our e-textbook. You have the week 5 interactive lecture, so you'll click this. And in another window, it'll pull up your interactive lecture. You can click next to go through this as normal. When you're done, you come back over and click next. You've got your discussion, so you'll need to address these things. Again, initial posts are due by Wednesday night. You need to respond to 2 fellow classmates by Sunday night. You'll click next. You've got your instructor session. Obviously, when this session closes, I'll put your recording there so you can review it in your own time again if you need to. And then that's it, because it moved us into week 6. So that's it. So if you have any questions at all, let me know. If you want to brainstorm topics for your speech in week 6, let me know. Just to kind of preview a few things for you guys. Next week, you'll have your normal stuff, but you'll have that week 6 speech project part 1 due, and that's that research, topic selection and research I just showed you. Now, your next portion of the speech assignment will be due in week 8, and we'll talk about this later on, but week 8, we're going to do a rough draft of your speech so I can help you to polish things up. In week 10, you'll take the feedback I gave you from week 8, you'll put it into your speech, and you'll resubmit it in week 10. And then in week 12, you'll actually record and deliver your speech. Okay? So, otherwise, if you have any questions, let me know and have a great week. Thank you so much.